Hello, everybody. Greetings to all. Welcome to the Snooker Hawk podcast. I'm Dan Murren. The Tour Championship is in the books, and the curtain has come down on the Players' Series for this season. Zhao Xintong is the first player to win all three events in the same season. An incredible achievement, a remarkable show of consistency, and a statement of intent ahead of the showpiece event on the snooker calendar. A festival of Bay's business awaits snooker fans across the globe, bringing up talking points, fans making predictions, sharing memories, moments of nostalgia. To talk about what the Snooker World Championship means in a sporting sense, and also as a cultural event, I'm joined by a journalist who has covered some of the biggest events in sport while working for some of the most famous news outlets in the world. With the Masters coming up in Augusta this weekend, it's a busy time of the year for him, but he is taking some time to talk on the Snooker Hawk podcast. It's an honour to give a warm welcome to Dave Tindall. How are you, Dave?
I'm very well, thank you, Dan. A nice introduction there.
Oh, you're worthy of it. I've read some of your work and I do like it. But you're mainly a golf journalist, not a snooker journalist. And this is a busy time for you.
Yes, lots of previews to write ahead of the Masters. But obviously, I always have snooker on my mind as well when it comes to this time because snooker was my first love way before golf. I suppose I've always loved football, but snooker was always right up there. Especially, I'm a child of the '80s in the sense that I was there when it all kicked in. Starting with Pot Black and then the World Championships and Steve Davis, and then I was a massive snooker fan in the '80s. It kind of died a little bit, but then I got heavily back into it during lockdown, which I've sort of heard this story before from people. You sort of go back to the comfort of what you liked as a child in a physical sense, because I had nothing to do. I think people forget sport stopped, didn't it? Sport just stopped around the world. And as a sports journalist, that's a slight problem. So I went online and ordered a 6x3 snooker table just for something to do. And from playing that, that's what I used to do when I was 12, 13, 14, my sort of love of snooker absolutely kicked in again. And before you knew it, I was back going to the World Championships again. I did the podcast with Dave Hendon as well, the commentator. So suddenly it just sort of grew again. And yeah, snooker, it's always got a massive place in my heart, snooker.
Doing things that we did when we were kids, that sense of nostalgia. I think with snooker, that is quite strong. A lot of people will say that they used to watch it with their parents, and ever since they've just hooked. And whether that be a player, whether that be a journalist, a fan, a commentator, a referee, that idea of being hooked when you're a kid, it is strong. It's a nice feeling, isn't it? It feels comfortable. It feels safe. It feels like something that you actually love.
Yeah, and because of the longevity of some of the players, I mean, if you were with Ronnie from the start, you've still got him. If you're with John Higgins or Mark Williams, even Hendry, because he's in the commentary box, you've got these players, you've got this connection with sort of little you in the '80s, and that now they're still in. You've kind of grown up with them. So yeah, it's sort of that again. That adds to that feeling of, this is a nice sort of world. You can keep a handle on it, rather than everything's new. And I mean, obviously, new great players come along, but it's nice having that link with the past as well.
When did you get into golf?
I was kind of always, it was kind of one of my other sports, I might say, but it's when I started betting on it because it never occurred to me as a sport you could bet on because there are 156 players in the field, and how on earth would you pick one of those? But there was a guy called Keith Elliott who used to do a lot of stats, and he came up with all these theories beyond just course form and current form about other sort of mental side of things, like whether say someone from a friend had won or someone you went to college with had won, and that would inspire you the next week. Just these sort of things that were more mental as well. And suddenly you started sort of pulling it together. And because at uni I did a psychology degree, so I was always interested in that side of things. And golf just seemed to fit as something that all these players can hit a great ball, hit it wonderfully. But so what stops some of them just caving in? And a lot to do was with sort of mental strength and everything. So yeah, from a betting point of view, it's almost not. It's kind of not really the money either. It's more just sort of trying to solve the puzzle. Who might win? What a fun code to try and crack each week because there's so many of them, and you pull in all these logical ideas, and if you get the win, it's like, wow, that's pleasing.
That's so with golf. I know there are some sports that are really data driven. Baseball,
Yeah,
I'd say, is famously because of Moneyball, the movie. That's the one that immediately comes to mind. But with some sports, there are the intangibles. I would say football is one of them. It's it's knowing what to do in the moment, and I guess it's not teaching. It's when you're kids. It's not teaching kids what to think. It's teaching them how to think. And this idea of these intangibles in golf, rivalry is one of them. You can't actually put a statistical number on that,
yeah,
but it does matter. It does matter. So it does make betting hard, but that's why that's why it's
yeah,
never a sure thing, right? It's,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, recently in golf, you've got this guy Gary Woodland.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah.
Suffered his brain sort of lesion on his brain, and he had PTSD. Is that the right order? I've said those letters. Um, and huge problem for him, just to physically, he became scared of people around him, and he'd suffered all this trauma. And then he decides to go public with it and tell his people knew the story, but people didn't know he was still suffering to the extent he was. He kind of lets it out, and lo and behold, 2 weeks later he wins. Now you can't tell me that there's not a correlation between those two events. No model, no other data's going to pick that up, but it's just something in his, that just connected mentally for him, and things like that. Things like that are always fascinating.
Because Gary Woodland, he won a major, maybe
He won
7 years ago?
2019, the US Open at Pebble Beach,
Okay, yeah.
2019.
But it did get a little bit of coverage in Denmark here because he won, was it in Houston, the event recently? I
Yeah,
think it was, yeah. But he beat a Danish guy to the
beat
title.
Nikolai Højgaard, yes.
Nikolai Højgaard, yes.
Yeah.
So that did get a little bit of press coverage
Right.
here. And
Okay.
wow, the story that Gary Woodland has been through.
Yeah,
But when you say, okay, the talent clearly is there, but all the top players, they can hit a ball. But if he feels liberated by sharing what he's been going through, it's got to make a difference. And
yeah,
those are the intangibles which probably are the difference makers in terms of betting odds, gambling odds, why the bookies might win, why the bookies might lose. You can't. That's the fascinating part about sport.
yeah. And
It's a true science.
yeah. And the other thing with that, the other element there, with Nikolai Højgaard was his playing partner in the final round. How do you square ruining this fantastic story? How do you? So he's a nice guy, and the Højgaard twins are nice guys. They've clearly got some sort of ruthless streak to get to where they are, but just in terms of being a good human, that must be a hard thing to do now. And I could just ruin this story, and even if that just dips your performance by 10%, it might be enough. And you got that sense that he felt he was I'm just going to be the supporting cast here. It's just too much to take on to ruin this guy's story, and maybe that just crept into his play.
You'd be the villain, wouldn't you? And
Yeah.
even when you're lifting the trophy, you're collecting your check of, the winner picked up easily more than $1 million.
Yeah,
Can you really enjoy it? I bet you
I
probably
know.
can. You probably can, let's be honest. But it won't, you kind of will feel like the pantomime villain.
Yeah,
And the other golf example that comes to mind there, we'll come on to snooker in a moment.
yeah,
The golf example there is, was it Tom Watson at the,
Yeah,
was
Stuart
it the
Singh.
Open?
Stuart
Singh,
Singh.
yeah. Everyone wanted the veteran to win. Everyone wanted it.
Do you know what? Apart from me and my mate,
So you support the bad guys, is what you're saying.
not the bad guy. No, I
Stuart
have
Singh's not a bad guy, I know.
no, because the feeling there was it would be a disaster for golf if some old fella won it, because in my head, people's got this image of golf as an old man's game. So I thought a 59-year-old winning the Open, as much as everyone else I was there with the media and wanted that story, I thought, people are going to see that. Half golf fans on the news will see that bit. I'm 59-year-old Tom Watson as well. They'll go, oh, look at that, some old fellas won it. So I was kind of rooting for Stuart Singh, which was slightly odd, but I just felt, I don't know, I thought golf needed it. I thought it was a great story for older golf guys but for the general sort of well-being of the sport, I thought it might be a bit of a.
I suppose that shows my hypocrisy, because I'm a big fan of in snooker when the younger guys beat the veterans, because it shows that there is a future in the sport. On that occasion, I was rooting for Tom Watson because you could see how much you want anyway. But we could talk about that a lot. The Masters is coming up this weekend. Big weekend for you because is it the biggest weekend on the calendar? I would say in terms of British TV coverage, it's the Masters and the Open stand out as the two of the four majors which get most attention, I would say.
Yeah, there's normally a debate about which is best out of the two. I think I sort of lean towards the Masters. I don't know, because it's at the same. It's like we've got with snooker and the Crucible. Because it's at the same venue every year, you kind of get to know it. It's part where the Open moves around, and they're all great courses. St Andrews comes up, every 5 years, but because the Masters, it's ridiculous. I know every hole at the Masters better than any other course, even a local one I just know it, and so do so many other people. It's just so familiar. I think people maybe have started watching it as a kid. They get to stay up late when they're little to watch it. It's just glamorous, isn't it? It's just on your TV, and it's all the rich, vivid colours. It just looks like, wow, look at this.
Yeah, it is. And I used to watch it with my mum when I was a kid, and it just had that. Yeah, it had that glamour. It had a sense of, I'm going to quote Nick Metcalf here, it had a sense of gravitas. It's like, well, this means something. And even just something like the green jacket, not just anyone can wear the green jacket. If you wear that, you've earned it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when Rory finally completed the set last year, it wasn't just winning the Masters, but doing it in that way after such a long wait. That's why it was such a momentous occasion, such a great achievement, because he'd come so close a few times. And I think a lot of fans were starting to wonder, is it ever going to happen? But for him to do it on one of the most famous golf courses in the world, under that kind of pressure against a proper pro like Justin Rose, he earned that. He did it the hard way, but that kind of made it even sweeter, really.
Oh yeah, it's a great story. There's a good Amazon documentary at the moment about it. It's worth a watch if you've not watched it.
I have not.
Yeah,
it's on Prime.
It's on Amazon Prime. Yeah, It's just called Rory's, something like the Masters Weight or something, but it's good. Worth a watch.
Who's going to win the Masters this year?
Right now, trying to work out in my head today. There's a few I like. I like John Rahm to win it again. I think the Masters does throw up a lot of repeat winners, as does the World Snooker. So I think if you've won it before, it's a good chance you'll win it again. Again, the parallel with snooker. So the defending champion at the Masters, as you know, has to then sort out the dinner for all the champions for the next year. So the defending champion at the Masters has got a terrible record. So whether you can relate that to snooker, I don't know. It's not billed as a curse as such, but it's always seems to be you just got that extra focus on you. It's not what you need. It's a grueling enough week as it is mentally. So with all this extra focus and hype around you, so with the Masters golf, you've got to organise the dinner and you've got to be fretting about that and everything. Defending champions just got a terrible record. No one's defended since Tiger in
I was thinking,
2000.
yeah, it's not in the last 10, 15 years,
Yeah,
surely. I can't think of.
2002, Tiger defended it, and there's only 4 in history, and that's that's sort of Gary Player, and that's Jack Nicklaus at Faldo. Maybe not Player, but Faldo, Woods, and Nicklaus are defending. It's just really hard to do, and obviously in the snooker, yeah, we've had streaks of it. But obviously, we've got the curse with first-time winners, which is obviously in play this year.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I've not really answered your question there, but I think Rahm will go well because he won it in 2023. You could say Scheffler because he's had a year off winning it. He's won it sort of every other year. I think Cameron Young, who won the Players' Championship, probably the biggest tournament outside of the majors, he's got a big chance.
because he beat Matt Fitzpatrick in that, didn't he?
Yeah, so Fitzpatrick is going to get a lot of attention. But the thing with the Masters, you've got to hit a really high ball, and he hits a low ball. So that's my slight doubt against him. But I'd be surprised if it's not a really big name, to be honest. That's just the way it's gone. I think if you look at the last 4 winners are McIlroy, Scheffler, Rahm, Scheffler. I mean, they're the top 3 in the world.
Who's the Japanese fella who won it before that?
Matsuyama.
Yeah. Matsuyama, yeah. I'm trying to think, yeah, but then it was Spieth. Won it, what, 10 years ago, Jordan Spieth won it?
Yeah, Dustin Johnson's won it when he was world number 1. So, it'd be
big names mostly, yeah.
Big names, yeah. It does identify the big names.
Was it? Oh, Danny Willett maybe was one of
Danny Willett was the shock
underdogs,
one,
yeah. But still, what an achievement for him, though.
Yeah.
You're dining out on that for the rest of your life, really, aren't you?
And Danny Willett from Sheffield, just to get us back to the snooker.
Oh, yes. Oh, what a segue. I love segues. That's a good one. That's a very good one. I thought, for me, part of the charm, part of the appeal, part of the draw of the Snooker World Championship is the TV coverage, hand in hand with how the BBC do it. You've got someone like Hazel Irvine, wonderful TV presenter. She just brings that professionalism. She brings that class to it. It is such an important part of the event. For me, she's been on for 20 plus years now. She's a part of the scenery. That sounds disrespectful, but it's not. A part of the furniture. She's a part of it. I'm trying to think who else. You've got the commentators.
Given that we've got this sort of snooker masters golf thing going here, back and forth, I've got a Hazel Irvine Masters story.
Bring it on.
Which I'll throw in because it backs up your point about what a great sort of person she is and presenter. But so I was lucky enough to go to 4 Masters when I worked for Sky. So I went there, amazing place. It's like you've walked through the television. It's just couldn't believe it. So one year I went down to the TV compound where the Sky kind of would, offices were, and they were doing all the production and everything. And we had to get a little golf buggy back to the first tee. And it so happened I got on it just as Hazel Irvine got on it as well. So we were sat on the back 2 seats. And she was about to sit down and it pulled away and she fell to the floor. And she was wearing this all white sort of suit, which wasn't ideal. But the driver realised he'd pulled away and went, "Oh, sorry, ma'am." And then she got up, dusted herself down, sat back down, and then said to me, "Anyway, how are you? Are you having a good week?" And it's just like, what a great woman. What a brilliant. That's just so nice. I was asking her, I was a complete nobody. I was just sort of part of I was doing it for the website. She's Hazel Irvine, and she's asking me, having just, fallen off. And imagine the sort of prima donnas who, might have kicked up a right fuss. She dusted herself down. Nothing. Didn't matter at all to her.
Rolling with the punches.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, every time I think of that story when I see her, and she's just great, and she's so thorough, meticulous with her notes and her research, and she's like you say, she's just part of it now, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. And it sounds. I know there are other presenters who maybe cover some sessions here and there, but I mean, she is the gold standard in that role in snooker for me. And I would say even those who came before her, she's taken it to a new level, I would say. And you hear the backstory of how she got involved and the way that her, I'll use the word again, predecessors, they were so respectful to her. They showed her the ropes, but she just took all this information in and she's become so good at what she does. And it's not just the audience who respects her, the players, the way they speak about her is so, they're in awe of what she does, because it's not easy. It sounds easy. All you have to do is just say, hello, welcome to the snooker coverage. It's not that. It's so much more than that. If you don't know what you're talking about, you can't do that job like she does it.
Yeah.
And see how the sport has changed and how the characters within the sport have changed. Some have not, some have. But she's a part of that furniture, and hopefully will be for a long time.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's no one quite like Hazel in that role. Do you have any favourite Crucible memories in terms of broadcasting or being in the Crucible? Favourite players, commentators, funny moments that stick in your mind?
Yeah, so I first went to it in 1982 as a mad keen. I think I was 12 at the time, maybe 13, maybe just gone 13. Yeah, would have been. And my dad took me. We got the train from. I'm from Cumbria originally, so we got the Carlisle Settle train down to Sheffield, and we were doing it in a day. So it was the time where I don't think you didn't know where the curtain was going to come down, and I think it was possibly Willie Thorne, Terry Griffiths on one time. I thought I fancy a bit of that because they were just two great players, and I always liked Willie Thorne because of his break building and everything. I thought it was an exciting player to watch. And then on the other table, it was Rex Williams and Doug Mountjoy, and we got there, and I think we saw a frame and a half before we had to go because they just played, reams and reams of safety play, which I wasn't quite hoping that I would get. But it was a sort of magical thing to have gone there. But I thought of all the games I could have picked, and I was in shock because in '81 I totally tuned into the Steve Davis is the coming force new thing. I'm mad. I bought both of his books. Was it Frame and Fortune? I think one of his books and one other one. And I was just absolutely mad into Steve Davis. So then watched him win that 1981 world title, and it's just like, wow, this is great, isn't it, when your hero wins an event. And then still today, it gives me shudders when I think how he could lose 10-1 to Tony Knowles. It kind of, it's almost like seeing a train crash sort of play out in front of you. And I was just, well, he's all right. He's 4-0 down, whatever. He's 8-1 down or something. I was just kind of, I could not believe it. I always think now, whenever I kind of frame a shock in my head or what could go wrong, I think of that as you just never know. You just never know. Someone can appear, the biggest ever favourite in something, but something's not quite right, and it gets away from them. I always think of that as the example. And obviously, it comes back to everyone will think Zhao Xingtong will be a massive favourite this year, but could it start to unravel like it did with Davis? Because you thought Davis was just kind of ice cold machine, and how could it go wrong? And yet, he's won it for the first time, all those magic feeling, and then comes back and, suddenly the snooker gods aren't quite having you again. So that's one of the fascinating things that I always remember vividly, that 82. I went in 2000 when I worked for Sporting Life as a journalist, and there was a time when there was some sort of press seats where you could sit in front of everybody, and I was sort of somehow sat in them, and across the way, I think it was back to golf again. I think Ian Woosnam was something like a president or something of, was he? Is that right? He had some connection, or
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was on the board for. So it's a weird one. but he was sat opposite. But yeah, it was Mark Williams against Matthew Stevens, the all Welsh final, isn't it? And I wanted Matthew Stevens to win, and Mark Williams won. And I remember afterwards, it said something like he'd do the interview naked or something if he won. And I don't think he did, but I just remember going to that interview. He's just won the world title, and he just seemed like he'd won like a best of five down his local club. I was a bit sort of frustrated that he wasn't more, yay, he wasn't more sort of, yeah, punching there. It sort of threw me. I've never, ever since then, I've never been able to work out what I think of Mark Williams because he kind of frustrates me. The kind of, I don't know, the kind of banter thing, you know, it's one of them ones he'll put he could put a fish in your car and under a seat, and he'd find it the funniest thing that's ever happened to a human. And I was like, oh, really? But on another level, I love his kind of the way he's just sort of cool and chilled. He's a funny character. I've never worked him out. You got
He has this demeanor where he wants people to think he doesn't care,
yeah,
and he absolutely does.
yeah, he definitely cares. Yeah,
You're not playing at that level for so many years unless you actually care. It's just not possible. And we've all heard, oh, I'm old now, my eyes don't work, I can't see, I can't pop balls anymore. So, mate, you made the World Championship final last year, and only a supreme performance kept you in your seat for most of it. I do think but I suppose that's part of the charm, really. It's not. Is it disingenuous? That sounds negative. I don't think it is. I just think he doesn't want people to get too excited about
yeah,
their expectations of him.
yeah.
Because he has achieved a lot.
Yeah, I do like that quality where someone's pretty chilled about life and stuff. I know you said beneath us as a fierce competitor in there, but you know he can be. You know, it can be so. I think he's saying the other day he can't just roll them in. Like it's just it's a thing of beauty watching him roll in pots slowly and just how does he do that? And some of these shots that he manufactures with his arms all over the place. So he's a bit of a one-off, but yeah, as a sort of, I've never been quite. He's never been one of my favorite. I was definitely a Steve Davis fan. I really, really could not stand Stephen Hendry for a long, long time. He used. I
Well,
think
it's been nice talking to you, but this will end now.
we've got to. We've got to finish. I've got to finish this anecdote because I think because he was probably the same age as me when I was trying to become good at snooker, and he was just like a million times better than I was ever going to be. And he was a bit young and he was a bit brash, and you know he had the haircut, didn't he? And but now he's one of my favourite people. Absolutely love the guy. Absolutely love him. I just think he's great. I love all his stuff that he does on YouTube and everything. And because at the time when he was my age, it was a negative because he's miles better than me. Because he's sort of grown up through it, I really relate to him. And you know, he liked the Smiths, I like the Smiths. It's like music wise. It's just lots of stuff that he likes. That's good, that is. And I just think he's really sort of relaxed into himself. So in the sort of world of snooker now, he's one of my absolute favourite people. I love his commentary. And yeah, it's just chalk and cheese from what I originally thought of him. Because obviously, the other thing, he was stopping Jimmy White winning, and that crushed me at the time because Jimmy White was, I'd say my sort of hero, my sort of level of heroes would be fairly obvious. I would have gone Davis, I would have gone Jimmy White, I would have gone Ronnie. I've liked other players in between, sort of a fair bit. I was always a fan of Kirk Stevens. But those three would be the main three and obviously Stephen Hendry just doing Jimmy over time and time. Yeah, that time when Hendry fell over and broke his arm. But here we go. And then he still won it. I just think this guy is. I don't know what to think, but as I say, I presume he's a hero of yours, but all the way maybe from the start.
Yeah, he is. And I think the reason for it is it was just something new. And I do think the contrast with Jimmy White is important. Jimmy was a showman, and I suppose still is a showman, but especially in the 80s and 90s, he was showman isn't really the right word. He just had this swagger on the table, and the style, it was different, and even the way they would just behave, the way they would hold themselves at the table. And I remember the 1994 World Championship final. The two players are standing side by side. It's awkward. Now they're separated on each, almost like boxers in each
Yeah.
corner. But then they were standing next to each other, and they've just been slogging away at each other for the last 2 days. It's awkward. But then you see Stephen Hendry just awkwardly sipping a glass of water, having just won the World Championship in the most tense
Yeah.
final frame. And I can understand why at the time I was like, God, he's not very happy, is he? Imagine the emotion that he's just been through. Okay, he's not Freddie Mercury, he's not Frank Sinatra in terms of charisma. Great, who is? But he was able to get out a few words, but I would say there was actually more power in his minimalist
Yeah.
approach during that interview. And I thought the contrast, even Jimmy, he just lost, but he was able to crack a few jokes, kind of take it on the chin. Was it? He's beginning to annoy me.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the I forget who was doing the interview. He said, "Well, do you want to play?" Or he was able to kind of
Right.
mask what must have been a crushing moment for him. And I do think people can relate to that as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes life doesn't go the way you want it, but if you can keep your chin up and keep going, then maybe there is hope. And I think even in that moment of defeat, he was able to maybe look at the bright side. I do think people see
Yeah.
some value in that. And I think that maybe more than his flamboyant style on the table is why I think people liked Jimmy White. It's
Yeah.
the personality rather than the player, in my opinion. I know
Yeah.
opinions
I
are
mean,
available, but that's what it meant to me anyway.
yeah. I think with Hendry, to this day, having watched snooker for what 40 odd years, I've never been, I've never had that feeling that this guy is never going to miss ever that I had with Stephen Hendry. I just say he's never going to miss a ball. With Ronnie can have these incredible ones, but I always think he might just chuck in a daft one. But with Hendry at that time when he was winning what 5 in a row, whatever, I just thought you are never going to miss. Don't leave him a chance. As soon as he gets it, he's going to clear up. I've never had that such feeling of certainty that he is going to clear up and win and win. It's just that you cannot beat him.
Again, that frame it's crucial for both of their careers. This is a weird example, but there are in the past I've compared that frame to two other sporting nearly moments. One of them was Felipe Massa. There has rarely been a more dominant single race victory than Felipe Massa in Brazil 2008, but he still didn't win the title. Lewis, in some way, managed to finish just ahead of him in the title race. But after that, he never won another race. He was never the same. Okay, he's still good, but he was never at that level again. And maybe the one that is more apt is Andy Roddick against Roger Federer at Wimbledon. He's a set up, and he should be 2 sets up, but Roger nicks it on a tiebreak to go 1 each. And I think it was Boris Becker, as a pundit, said, if he goes 2-0 up, he wins the title.
Yeah.
Roger Federer is not coming from 2 down to win 3-2. And then when he loses 16-14 in a deciding set, it broke him. And he never reached another Grand Slam quarterfinal after that. And I think at that point he finally realised it's never going to happen for me.
Yeah.
And I think maybe in that moment, Jimmy White, after 4 final defeats to Stephen, 6 overall, I think it broke him. And I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I don't know what was in his head, it's just my opinion. But the fact that he was never the same after
Yeah.
that. And he was, 33 at the time, I think he was? Like, he's not an old man. It's something broke. But to make a full circle moment, it's those intangibles. On
Yeah.
paper, you can have this ability, you can be good at this, but with snooker, with golf, with tennis, with these solo sports, the psychology is so important, and you just cannot put a statistical number on it, and that
Yeah.
is, but it's such a key part of
Oh, yeah.
success.
One thing I've been thinking about this week is how aware is Zhao Xintong of the Crucible curse? Does it hit through as much as to a young Chinese guy than it does to old British people like us?
Well, that's a good
Does
question.
it feed? I mean, how he'll know about it, but I mean, I don't know. It's like even in the, I know, like I've been to Hong Kong before, and superstition is a very big part of their culture, but I don't know whether it would be part of his background with super and all this, because if it's not, and if he's just vaguely aware of this thing, I do think the more you know about something, the more you can't get out of your head. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to know what he really thinks about it, because all the British guys would know. You know, you ask Kyron Wilson, he'll know he'll know absolutely everything about it. And he suffered it, didn't he? And you kind of thought that was
Yep.
part of it. I think he was almost trying to say, "Oh, it won't affect me," but I think it absolutely affected him. But I just sort of wondered if it's bigger in Britain than it might be in China.
It must be, because I can't remember where I heard this from. Whether it was from anyway, I don't know where I heard this, but I did hear it. That even before he won the title, he just won his semi-final. And who was he playing there? I think it was David Gilbert, if I'm not mistaken. But already they were thinking about breaking the curse if he goes on to win the final.
Yeah,
And again, it was on social media, some of the responses were arrogance, thinking he's going to win the title. It's like, well, it's not arrogance, really. It's actually the opposite of arrogance, I would say. He's aware that literally no one in the history of the Crucible has done this in 50 years. So it's clearly not easy. If I just turn up next year thinking it's an automatic win, that's arrogance.
yeah,
That's delusion. But the fact that he was so eager to prepare for it, I would say it's the opposite of arrogance. But then the fact that he knew it was a thing, we'll never know. Only he will ever know.
yeah,
But that's why it's so fascinating.
yeah.
That's why it's so interesting. And
Yeah, if it was just like who's playing really well, therefore he will win, and it's like linear, and it's like da da da. But it's just not that simple.
do you think Zhao Xintong will break the Crucible curse this season? On the spot, that's the question.
That's the question. Um, well, I'll take this point to mention my 10-year trends preview that I write for the snooker. Where I look at how often something has happened in the last 10 years across a various number of categories. So, like for age, for example, there's been 4 guys in their 30s have won it in the last 10 years, 3 in their 20s, 3 in their 40s, actually. No one's done it in their 50s, mind, yet.
Yet.
Yet. Also, in the last 10 years, 7 of the winners were one of the top 8 seeds. So that can help narrow the field. There tends to be kind of a sweet spot for appearances in the last 10 years. I think if you play between 8 and 12 times at the Crucible, that's kind of your sweet spot when you're most likely going to win it. So that's happened 5 times in the last 10 years. I think Kyron was the last one to do that. There's a weird one, again, maybe psychology, where if you've got to the semi-finals the previous year, it really affects your chances of winning it the year after. So 8 of the last 10 winners hadn't got to the semis the year before. So it's almost like, were they then hungrier? Or did the guys who got to the semis, were they thinking, I'll probably get there again, and took their eye off the ball? But for whatever reason, if you're looking for the likely winner, he's more likely not to have been on the one table setup last year. It's quite an interesting
That is interesting.
discovery, yeah.
That is.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Current form, I went through this. So 8 of the last 10 winners had got to at least a semi-final in one of their last 3 events. So, which makes sense, doesn't it? Someone in good current form. So someone who hasn't done that. Kyron Wilson hasn't got to a semi in his last 3 events, so that would go against him. I looked at whether it was important to win a ranking event in the year of your win. It's not that it's not as key as you might think. So 6 of the last 10 had won a ranking event, but 4 hadn't. So you don't absolutely have to. Some of these are slightly skewed. The trends of the last few years, Kyron Wilson, I did actually back him at 28 to 1 when he won because he was a perfect trends fit. But the year before, Luca Bracel just bust every trend completely.
Yep.
Because he just had a terrible record there. He just couldn't see it. And then he just plays out of his skin like we sort of know he can, but we didn't think he'd do it on that stage for that long, over 2 weeks. And then the other one I looked at was fatigue, because I think there was a year, there's definitely a good amount of frames to have played in a season. Again, Luca Bracel kind of ruined that, but it's generally between 40 and 60 matches a winner would have played. So there's a few years where Judd Trump, when he kept winning like 6 times a year for a few, he was kind of playing over 100 matches each year. It's kind of put him in the red zone. I think he was just kind of done a bit by the time he got to the Crucible. So it helps to have played a fair amount, but you don't want to be undercooked either. So generally, it's good to have played a good amount of events. And the other final one of my trends is expectations and how you actually perform at the Crucible. So somebody like Neil Robertson, the last 5 years, compared to his seeding, he's underperformed every time. So I kind of give a score. If you play better than your seeding, so say you're seeded number 9, then on seeding you should be going out in the last 16. So if you get to the quarters, the last 8, you've played above expectations. And then the other way, say you're seeded number 3 and you don't get to the semis, well, you've underperformed what your seeding would have suggested. So Neil Robertson, for the last 5 seasons, has underperformed in relation to his seeding every time. Others like Ding has underperformed a lot of times. Mark Allen has. There's a lot of Barry Hawkins has. There's quite a lot of players who just don't. They're seeded to do better than they are. Whereas somebody, so Kyron's been good. Kyron's always he's had a couple of poor ones in the last few years, but generally he's played well. He's played better than his basic seeding would have suggested. So I put all these. I sort of put all these into the computer, and then spat it out. It's very, very close. So actually, I have a guess who might have come out on top. See if you could guess.
I'm going to say Judd Trump will come out on top.
No, it doesn't. No,
No?
it doesn't. Judd Trump comes one to only 6th.
6th? Is it Zhao Tong?
Zhao Tong comes 2nd.
Surely it's not Mark Selby. He's in poor form at the moment.
So Mark Selby comes. Well, actually, Zhao Tong he is tied 2nd with Selby and Sean Murphy. Trump. When you said Trump, he's got a good age. He's in his 30s. He's in the top 8 seed, and that's good. He's played a good number of appearances. If you play quite a lot, that helps. He's won this season. That's good. But that weird one I mentioned, he got to the semis last year, which counts against him because winners don't tend to have done that. So that knocks him down a little bit. And in terms of his expectation, I know he got to a final, but generally he's underperformed. He scores -6 in that expectations category because he's underperformed 4 times and overperformed once. So it's 2, you get like -2, -2. So he gets hurt by that because it's fair to say, isn't it, that the opinion of Judd is that because he's only won it once, he should have got to more finals, won it more, and because he's always going to be like number 2 seed or 3, we expect him to go a long way, and he's just not done it. So he's only down at 6th.
So, without telling me who is number 1, where can people find out who is number 1 on
Well,
this list?
this is kind of exclusive for the Snooker World podcast because I've not actually published it yet. But yeah, so it will be on Betfair in the next week or so. There's actually am I going to to be continued? Is it going to be one of those, or do you want the name?
Please share it. People
Well,
can find it.
to be honest, it's like I don't really want it to work out. I don't. See, it's not it's just the numbers are telling me this. I'm not saying this will happen. But bizarrely, the number one by a clear 3 points is John Higgins.
John Higgins,
Yeah,
wow. Well, he's made a lot of semi-finals. He's made a lot of finals. He
yeah,
hasn't actually won a tournament
yeah.
this season, but
Well, no, he's won a tournament this season. Yeah, he's won one.
he's he's one of the. You can never write him off. Experience, obviously, you would say is a factor. Oh, you do count experience in this list, don't you? Because it's yeah.
The only thing he's got against him is his age because he's 50 now, and we haven't seen a 50-year-old win it. But in terms of his seed, so he's number 5 seed. He's got a good number of appearances. He's won there before. He got to the quarter final last year, so he didn't get to the one table. So that sort of helps, keeps him
Yeah.
hungry for the next one.
And it was a very close
Yeah,
quarterfinal as well. He
yeah,
lost that in
yeah,
a very painful way, so maybe that's that extra little
yeah.
kick up the backside he might need.
He's just got to the semis, hasn't he? In Manchester, he got hammered by Zhao, but he still played well to get to the semis. No, yeah, you're right. So he hasn't won a hasn't won a ranking event this season, but 4 of the last 10 hadn't, so it doesn't particularly hurt him.
Yeah.
He's played 55 matches, which is kind of in the sweet spot where you need to be, and he's overperformed in relation to his seeding at the Crucible in the last 5 years. So he comes out. So I mean, he's actually looking at the draw. He's in the same half as Zhao Xintong. So if Zhao does become victim to the curse, it's kind of a bit open for him because you've got Selby's in the bottom half. I think he'd play Ronnie quite soon, Higgins, but then you could say, well, Ronnie's vulnerable. So
Yeah.
there's kind of the draw could open up for him.
We mentioned it before. Moneyball, the movie. I think it's absolutely fascinating, and I was never really a big baseball fan, and I'm still not really. But I found the way that they use statistics, absolutely, it's just amazing, and it completely changes the way I've looked at other sports. So Brad Pitt's character Billy Bean says,
Yeah.
if he's such a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? Well, he looks good. But the way he swings the bat, it's so smooth. It's like, okay, but does he actually score runs? Does he get on base?
Yeah.
Does he actually produce? Well, no, but it looks good. It's like, well, I don't care then. And what's the character's name? Peter Brand, the guy he gets in to be the analyst, to actually use statistics in a real way. He says it's about getting things down to one number. Because you can have 1,000 stats and it's just a mess of numbers. It means nothing. But getting it down to one number and condensing how many factors? Well, a dozen factors, and putting it into one number. That's kind of what you've done. Make it easy to swallow. Because if you give someone that table of information, no one would know where to begin. But if it's one number, that's doable. Then you can make a judgment. But I suppose it's also related to the John Higgins is number 1. Again, he's on the veteran side of snooker. But again, in Moneyball, it's like, well, no, he's old. The bat speed isn't there anymore. But it's like, well, no, he actually gets on base quite a lot.
Yeah.
All right, it may not be glamorous, but he actually gets his job done. And if John Higgins has to scrape himself over the line to win another world championship, he ain't going to complain. His fans ain't going to complain. And he'll get a lot of respect for it. But he's done his job.
I think the style thing, what you said, I think that relates to Kyron Wilson, because I think if he'd been sort of left-handed and absolutely, beautiful cueits, but because he kind of like shuffles into his shot and looks a bit manufactured, I think there was a bit of a bias against him that, this guy's a bit limited. And there's always this thing, his cue ball, his cue ball isn't good enough, and he's making all these sort of massive breaks, and his cue ball, his white ball isn't quite. So there was all this sort of bias against him. But if you're just looking at his results at the Crucible, he dropped plenty of hints that he had what it would take to win that.
Well, even at the Masters, he wouldn't have been the favourite going into the Masters, But I spoke with his brother about a week before Ali Pali. He said, I think Kyron's going to win. And okay, maybe there is a little bit of fraternal loyalty there. I'm sure it is a factor in to some degree, but he was right. It's like you can't write him off. Over the last 2 years, Kyron's won a number of titles, including the World Championship and the Masters. Like, he's doing something right. Okay, ranking events this season haven't been a happy hunting ground for him, but he's won 2 massive invitational events, and like, he's not. Is he on paper the favourite? No, but would it be a massive surprise if he makes the one table setup?
Well, if going through these sort of points scores, I kind of, if you pick the top scorer in each quarter, then in the top quarter you'd have Zhao or Sean Murphy because they've scored the same amount of points. Then you get John Higgins, so it'd be Zhao or Sean Murphy versus John Higgins. And in the bottom half, the top scorers would be Kyron Wilson in the third quarter and Mark Selby in the fourth quarter. So that would be the other semi. So it seems it's spat out a reasonable answer, doesn't it? There's no sort of strangeness in there.
Yeah. No, that's not a shock semi-final lineup. That's
there's a few. There's one who's just below it that's interesting because I didn't think he would have had enough kind of reps at the Crucible to figure on something like this, which does lean into history at Sheffield. But Wu Yiza is actually on the same score as Judd Trump.
Wow. Okay.
And just below, the top 5. So he's right there because of all he's done kind of this season and the amount of games he's played. And he's played a couple of times at the Crucible, but hasn't been expected to do anything. So he's not sort of underperformed. He's got no scar tissue or anything there. So it's kind of a fresh hit for him. But yeah, he's quite interesting. Although he is quite short in the betting, actually. I think he's not like a crazy price. I think he's about 12 to 1. So it's kind of
a higher return.
Yeah, it's expected. I went to that Manchester event. Was it last year or the year before? And he was on the other table. I could see both. And he seemed a bit all over the place, seemed very erratic, but you could see the talent there when. Yeah, so it's just whether he could. And obviously this year he's done a better job of harnessing it all. So yeah, he could be an interesting one, he could be.
Yeah, and in terms of talent, obviously, there's no doubt about it. He is elite. But again, it's those intangibles, the experience. Will he find the pressure too much? Because I watched his match in the theatre last year against Mark Williams, and he played well. But the experience to Mark over the line, obviously Mark was playing well, making the final, but you can never, and that I suppose that's the one thing that you can't put in the numbers. That's why it's fascinating. But Wu, I would not consider him among the favourites. If you had to give me what I'm basing that on is just instinct. I'm not using any stats, any information with that. It's just gut feeling.
Yeah,
I would consider him one of the favourites, but
I would guess he needs a few more runs at it before he's gonna win it. The one final little mention on the trends. There's a fascinating one because I kind of worked out the scores for basically the 16 seeds that we know, because it's apart from Zhao last year, who was sort of weirdly not seeded because of circumstance, when we all knew he was clearly one of the best players. You don't get a non-seeded or someone outside the top 16 winner. But I just thought I'll just check into those who are a bit below, just in case they do qualify. And there's a player who if he gets to the Crucible, would actually come second. Is actually second on my rankings. Can you guess?
That is a very good question. So if we're looking at the last 10 years.
So as a clue, this is why he scored lots of his points. So as a clue, he's in his 30s. He's played there 8 times before. He didn't make the semis last year. He's won a ranking event this year. He's played a good amount of games this year, and he's got to at least a semi in one of his last 3. he actually got beaten in the final.
So is it Jack Lazowski?
It is, yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Second.
So in theory, if he makes it, I mean, he might not even make it, but if he makes it there, he would slot in at second.
Okay. Because is he got 17 or 18? He just missed out on automatic qualification.
Yeah, so he's got to qualify, but I've not really looked. I don't know what part of the draw he'd go into.
No, I'm going to be looking at that this week because the qualifiers have kicked off,
they're all
so
way
I'll
out.
be looking at that. But second, so Jack
Yeah,
Lazowski.
yeah.
On paper, you would say, oh, he's an underdog, but
But then
statistics.
this is the year where if he won and he was then he's won because he's a good age. He's won. He's finally got a win. He lost the final as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of there. It's written. It's there for you. He's kind of telegraphed it. He's not coming out of thin air.
Yeah, and
but he's got to get to the Crucible first before.
Well, that's the not the hard bit, but that's another feat in itself is actually getting through Judgment Day. Like these are not easy matches. The pressure to perform on Judgment Day is immense.
Yeah.
And
but he got to the quarters last year, so it's not like he's got some.
Well, yeah, he's not without form, without pedigree. Yeah. Jack Lazowski second on the likely list.
Yeah.
The likely list. I like that term. The likely list. Yeah. Before we wrap up here, news about the Crucible. I'm going to say it. I think it's quite good news.
Yeah, it was pretty unexpected for it to be that long, wasn't it? 2045.
Yeah, with an option of another 5 years. I don't know who has that option, whether it's Snooker or Sheffield, but one way or the other, you would assume that it's likely to.
I mean, I live in West Yorkshire, so I'm literally less than 50 miles away from Sheffield, so it's obviously very, very handy for me. And I've got all the nostalgia links to it. But there was just a little bit of me that wouldn't have thought it was a disaster if it just moved around occasionally. I think maybe that's my golf background, and obviously, say like the Open. I love it when it's St Andrews, but I quite like it when it goes to like Lytham So I just wondered, wouldn't it be sort of fun if it did go to China for a year? Just to see, and I'm sure there's probably some players who the Crucible does their head in. I'm sure Ronnie wouldn't mind a little go. But as it happens, we're going to get that, aren't we? Because when they refurbish it, it will go somewhere else.
Indeed. Indeed.
So we'll. I mean, I know Dave Tindall reckons it wouldn't go to China. It would stay somewhere in the UK. And I've been to the Manchester. Manchester's a great city, obviously, and that would be a good venue. So it'd be just as a little change up. I wouldn't mind, but yeah, I don't know. I wasn't as attached to it has to be there forever as people might think I would be, given that I'm quite a sort of local and nostalgic, and I've got memories. But I just think as long as it was on the rota and maybe like the dominant venue on the rota, it wouldn't have upset me that much. What about you?
Well, I've been to the Crucible several, I don't know how many times, but and I do like it.
Yeah, it's great.
I suppose it depends on. Sometimes players will say that they're happy for it to be at the Crucible, but if it is restricting the sport, they would like it to move, and that gets twisted. It's like, well, they want to move it away. It's like, well, no, they only want to move it if it's holding back the sport. The sport is more important than the Crucible, and I would agree with that. And if it becomes counterproductive just to hold it there, just because we feel we have to, then yes, I agree. That's not a good thing. The example I remember is Elliot Slessor. He said that the prize money for losing in the first round hasn't gone up in 8 years. And he said that's not a growing sport. Why? When you look at darts, different situation. I don't normally like the comparison, but their prize money has skyrocketed recently because of TV deals. But I would say it's not really because of the number of seats in the arena. Okay, it makes a difference, but it's not the big difference. But Elliot Slessor said that if it meant that the sport would grow more, he would be happy for it to move away from the Crucible. But that was twisted by fans and by some unscrupulous sports writers to say that Elliot Slessor wants it to move away. He disregards history. It's like, well, that's not actually what he said.
Yeah.
But I suppose I do agree with Elliot in the sense that if the Crucible does become to use a golf term, an albatross, then if it does become a burden just to keep this event in the Crucible just because we have to, then I think maybe there is an argument to move it away. But the fact that it will generate a bit more revenue now, a bit more prize money, and Dave Hendon says it a lot, money talks.
Yeah. I just thought, although I'm really pleased with the decision, I just thought, imagine tennis only had one huge Grand Slam. That was the pinnacle, and the rest was just kind of below that. Like snooker's got the World Championship, and then it's, that's such the top thing, rather than golf or tennis. Imagine tennis had one major, and it was in Paris every year on clay. And some players just don't like clay, so they've got to play their best event every year on the same place that they don't really like. So I was just thinking, if it did move, would we? Because I do like. It kind of frustrates me that Judd Trump's only won it once. I think he deserves better, but I think the Crucible's kind of a part of that because it's not his place.
Yeah.
And Neil Robertson has talked about, because it's so tight, he likes to walk into the shot and he feels restricted. So I just wonder if we'd get more variety of winners maybe, or guys who I think have got the talent to win more, but I think they're being held back because it's at that one place. That's my other sort of angle.
I'm thinking now about that tennis comparison. So Pete Sampras, one of the greats, never won the French Open.
Yeah.
Boris Becker won everything except the French Open. Andre Agassi eventually did win the French, but he won after that, actually, so he's not a great example. But if you take away, if Roland Garros was the only one that counted, then Sampras will be on 0 majors.
Or like Ivan Lendl didn't win Wimbledon because...
Yes, of course. And,
so
Justine Henin as well, I believe. She won everything except...
Yeah. So I know a snooker table is a snooker table is a snooker table, but it's kind of... It is a different environment. It's the environment it's in.
It's true. It's true. And even in terms of conditions, I remember seeing a Neil Robertson match probably fairly recently. It was in Brentwood, 2024, and oh my god, it was so humid in there. And that's a factor to consider. And he even mentioned it. He was like, God, it's a bit sweaty in here, isn't it? But maybe in a nice air-conditioned building, maybe there's different... the cloth works different. It's just those little factors that at that level, it does make a difference for you and I play. And it's just like, well, it's just a table. But
I mean, that is a question. If it sort of danced around the world and gone to like the Far East a fair bit, do you think Ronnie would have more than 7?
No, I don't think so. No.
You don't? Because I think the Crucible has done his head in a number of times because of... I think mentally he would have been happier at times in other places.
Where they can pamper him. He loves that.
Basically. Where he's just like the rock and roll star and we all bow down to him. Yeah.
He is. You see him in these events in China, in Hong Kong. They treat him like he's Mick Jagger's just walked out or something.
Yeah.
Just who's the modern version of Mick Jagger? No, not Taylor Swift, someone cool. That's a depressing one. We can't think of a cool modern musician.
Because there isn't one.
There isn't one, yeah.
Harry Styles.
Harry Styles, yes. God, that's a... Yeah, God. Not a fan, actually, of his solo stuff. I have tried. No, I like One Direction, but no, the solo stuff, no, not for me, actually.
They're not really
He's
my.
famous.
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran. He's a nice bloke.
I
Yeah.
can't stand Ed Sheeran, but there you
No.
go. No,
Okay. Not even as a bloke. You don't think he's a nice guy? Or? The music is a bit meh.
I kind of want my rock stars to be rock stars, not someone who looks like a busker, which is really shallow and stupid. But
No, it's
but I want my rock stars to look like Liam Gallagher and to have an edge.
Oh yeah, see that's a good one actually. Yeah, like Liam Gallagher walking around, he
Yeah,
would be recognised instantly.
yeah,
Yeah, anywhere in the UK. Oh, that's Liam Gallagher. Yeah, maybe that's a better example actually. Liam Gallagher. All right, it's a little bit 90s, but
yeah.
they're still famous. Yeah. So we've covered a lot of talking points today, including some golf as well, which I'm
Hmm.
always happy to talk about. I like golf. Are you? I was supposed to ask you. Are you heading to the Crucible this season?
I haven't yet got a ticket, but I can sometimes get one later.
And because you're kind of close, it's not a massive
Yeah,
hassle. So if you
it's
can get a
pretty
free
easy.
day, you might be able
It,
to.
yeah, I normally get there most years.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll see you there. I'll be
All
heading over
right,
for a few
okay.
days at the end.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to this one because I think there'll be a little bit of pressure taken off in terms of the buzz and the atmosphere because a lot of fans do want it to stay there. And I think there was a lot of fear that, we might not get too many
Yeah, yeah.
World Championships here. We kind of got to like savour it, but it wasn't like a farewell party, but it was maybe a little bit of, we might not get this that much more.
Mm.
And Dave, I want to say thank you for your time. I really appreciate your insight, the opinions you've shared, and I hope, well, first of all, I hope you enjoy the Masters, but I
Thank
also
you.
hope you enjoy the World Championship.
Yeah, inevitably I will. Yeah, thanks, Dan. It's been I love to bit of snooker chat.
Oh, no, it's
Well,
always fun. That's
yeah,
the ethos of the podcast. Just talk
yeah,
about snooker. Everyone
yeah,
loves it secretly, even if they say they don't. Everyone loves talking about snooker. So why not talk about it? Yeah. No, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for the
yeah.
time. I know it's a busy week for you, so I appreciate you
No,
taking the time to talk to me.
thanks
And
for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
where can fans of snooker and golf find your posts?
On the Betfair website, um, you'll find me there. On the Guardian website, um, I'll be covering Friday's second round at the Masters, sort of live, minute by minute or whatever, blow by blow. I did actually do the snooker one year for the Guardian, covered the live frame by frame blog, which was a bit of an honour for me. When you think back to sort of little you as a snooker fan, to then be sort of writing about it and about the tournament that you've grown up with, so that was always a fun thing to do. And yeah, are you any good, by the way, at snooker? Do you play much?
Well, I was away in Riga over the weekend, and I found a snooker club, and I played a few frames. I got a break of 15, so it was a red, black, red, blue, red. Then I missed a green. But then the next day I went back again and I got a break of 19. So that was red, black, red, yellow. Then I missed a red. So I was really happy with that. So, no, my high break is 23, but I did that over 10 years ago. But I got close. And, and I actually did a little practice routine, just clear the colours. And for the
Yeah.
first time ever, I did it in one go. But no, I'm not fantastic. No. Some of the guests who have been on this podcast are obviously the pro players, very good.
Yeah.
But some of the guests easily have century breaks. Leo Scullion, I think his break was 93, I think he said was his record. Yeah, there are far better players than me.
So I've had century breaks.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So
So
you're
when so when I
not too
when,
shabby with the cue.
when I played a lot as a kid, I got to I went through the 20s and 30s and 40s. Maybe got to like a 50, and that was like when I was about 25. And then I kind of had this gap where I just didn't play. But then this time in lockdown when I got the 6x3, I'd had a maximum on a 6x3, which is 107. which is sort of fun. And
Still counts.
it still count, yeah. But then my local is the Northern Snooker Centre, which is one of the best around. So you get Peter Lyons, David Grace, Sanderson Lamb. They're all down there every day, it seems. So I started going there a lot, and a lot, and a lot. This was when you could sort of go to places after lockdown. I just kept playing and playing and playing, and got my break up and up and up, and then finally I got 100. I remember I think it was on 96, and I had a blue into the middle for 100. I went over to David Grace and said, I'm about to get 100. Can you just, I don't know why, because I could have missed it, but it was a blue off its spot. I mean, I really couldn't miss it. So he sort of witnessed my sort of breakthrough.
That's an achievement, though. To really
because I dreamt about it. I mean, it's against myself. I'm playing, I'm setting them up, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But you can't just put them over the pocket. That's silly. You've got to spread them nicely. But yeah, for something that when you think, oh, imagine if I could ever do that one day, and to achieve it, I felt so. I think it's been my greatest sporting achievement. I think for me, because I'm not particularly good at golf. I'm just not. I was good at football, I suppose, but nothing. But I think it's quite a club, isn't it? I think to have 100, it's quite a sort of thing you can say. It's a landmark, or an obvious landmark.
It is, and you hear about these players, and even players who were good but never reached the pro levels, and then ask them, what's your high break? So, well, in practice, 147. I don't know how many times I've done it. And they could just knock out these 147s in practice just willy-nilly.
Yeah.
But to reach that level is just, and still not make it as a pro, it's like you realise how good these guys actually are.
Yeah.
It's insane, like the level of skill and technique
that's
required. But no, to reach a century, that's excellent. So well done.
Yeah, it's So I did. So I kept going, and then it went up from like 101 to 109. So I did do a total clearance of 131. Quite a lot of blues in there, and then I was way out of position on the colours and just sort of started hurling my arm at stuff, and it sort of ended up going in. I had a ridiculous cut on the black to get the 131, and it sort of went in. That's my lucky day, but.
That's even better than a century as a total clearance.
I guess so, yeah.
I would say. Even if it was just reds and yellows all the way, it's probably not a century at that point. But it would still be a better achievement, I think.
Well, I don't know. It didn't mean as much because I think the century was such a thing, just such a landmark that that was it. I'll tell you what I'll do as well on here. In lockdown, when I had my 6x3, this we're getting to the realms of strangeness now. But in lockdown, for some reason, I've been walking near Leeds University once, and I found a ginger wig on the floor because it's students having a laugh and everything. And for some reason, I took it home and thought, I don't know why, but one day I'll use that for something. So in the lockdown madness, I've got a video of me making a maximum on a 6x3 with a Steve Davis ginger wig on. So it's a curiosity. It's a difficult time for everybody, but that's how I spent my lockdown.
Wearing a Steve Davis wig.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're all quirky in some way.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I'll dig it out. Yeah, it's quite a funny one. The camera falls over at one point, but yeah, it does. It's there. It's quite fun to capture. What did you do on your lockdown? Yeah.
I can honestly say I didn't do that.
No.
So,
yeah.
Well, I think, Dave, on that note, I think we should. What a way to end it. What a way to end the show. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate your insights.
Cheers, Dan.
And I will leave you to. Well, you've got a busy few weeks ahead of you. So
brilliant. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, cheers, Dan.
I'll speak to you soon, and thanks for your time.
Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Take care. big thank you to Dave Tindall for joining me on the Snooker Hall podcast. For the golf fans among the Snooker Hall community, check out his social media pages for links, pun intended, to his coverage on the Masters, and check out his stat-based betting odds for the Snooker World Championship. You'll have to forgive my croaky voice. I'm recovering from a stinker of a cold. As I mentioned to Dave, it almost ruined an Easter weekend away in Riga, but it didn't. I found a billiards club with a workable snooker table and played a few cheeky frames with my wife. That made me feel a lot better. Imagine if there were a chance to bring back the Riga Masters. We have a Latvian player on the Pro Tour now. There is a proven arena in which to hold the event. I know it wouldn't be as big as the German Masters in Berlin, but surely it's worth looking into. Coming up on the Snooker Hall podcast, a series of wonderful guests. My guest to preview Judgment Day has been called one of the most insightful voices in snooker. Gary Moss will return to the Snooker Hall podcast. It's been a little while since his last appearance. Looking forward to chatting with Gary. Always good to hear his opinions. Once we know the final 32, I will look back at Judgment Day and look ahead to the action at the Crucible with the man behind the Crucible Almanac, Chris Downer. Again, really looking forward to hearing what Chris has to say. He's a really nice guy and he certainly loves his snooker. When the action in Sheffield is over, I will be recording a special analysis of the entire tournament with Neil Foulds. His guest spot on the podcast last summer was a big hit with fans. Not a surprise, everybody likes Neil. But Mr. Foulds will return to the Snooker Hall podcast this year as well. Maybe it will become a tradition. Over the summer, to look back at the season overall and to discuss some key narratives, some of which are still unfolding, Nick Metcalf will be my guest on the Snooker Hall podcast, one of the most recognisable and respected voices in snooker. Keep an eye on your podcast feed for those episodes. For those who haven't checked out Bay's Breakdown on YouTube, I would highly, highly recommend it. And I'm happy to say I will be a guest on that channel this week. I will be taking part in one of the Table Talk episodes where we discuss the season up to now, maybe make a few cheeky predictions for the World Championship. Bay's Breakdown on YouTube. It's fantastic snooker content, player analysis, chat about events, how the game is going, what could be done better, what we're doing right. It's good stuff. If you could take a quick moment to review the Snooker Hall podcast on Spotify and Apple with 5 stars, it would go a long way towards helping other snooker fans find the show. If you want to get in touch, the email address is contactus@thesnookerhall.com. And of course, you can contact me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. All you need to do is search for the Snooker Hall. I hope you've enjoyed the snooker season so far. The final chapter is just about to be written. I hope you have a blast watching the action on the bays over the next 4 weeks. Keep an eye on your podcast feed for upcoming episodes, and until next time, take care.